Hey, it's Dr. Jen here. I've had a lot of people ask me if I would talk about everything going cold turkey. People say, there's so much on the internet about how to taper, why to taper, water titration, dry cutting, but there's not a lot of information for cold turkeys. So let's do it. Let's talk about going cold turkey. First and foremost, don't do it. Please don't go cold turkey. It is such a shock to your brain and your nervous system that your withdrawal symptoms can be intense and they can even be life-threatening. You can have a seizure if you don't have a drug to help calm down everything. That drug would be called a neuroleptic. So it's not a good idea to go cold turkey. Now, some people, they just think, I can't do this on my own. It's just overwhelming, so I'm going to go to a detox or a rehab center. That's not a great idea either, because they very often like to pull people off their benzodiazepine cold turkey with the help of a neuroleptic, or they do a very, very rapid taper just over a matter of days, which is very similar to a cold turkey. The way that we want to get off a benzodiazepine is to go very slow, listen to your body, and you just slowly reduce down. The Ashton Manual, which is the gold standard for those of us that are affected by a benzodiazepine and we need a good guide on how to get off, it recommends reducing our dose no more than 10% every 2 to 4 weeks. So a nice, slow, steady taper. Cold turkey is not the way to go. But so what happens if a doctor has cold turkeyed you and you didn't know? Maybe you're just now finding out about, the whole benzodiazepine withdrawal community, and you're just now learning. Well, if you have been cold turkeyed, here's some things to think about. If you're within 30 days of your last dose, you have some time to think about if you want to reinstate or not. If your symptoms are so severe and you think that you can't handle them, you have about 30 days to reinstate and then to continue doing a slow taper. If you're beyond 30 days, the chances of reinstatement, of it working, get smaller and smaller. Now, there are a few individuals out there that it has worked for, but by and large, after 30 days, our receptors just don't want to deal with the drug. We're not exactly sure of the science behind it. We just know the anecdotal evidence that reinstatement rarely works. You might get some relief, but most likely you'll start having the exact same symptoms that you were trying to get away from, and they will happen very quickly. So if you're cold turkeyed and you're within 30 days, you've got some time to think about if you're going to reinstate or not. After 30 days, it gets a little dicey, and it's a gamble if it would work or not. Things to think about as to how that we cope with those intense symptoms, and usually a cold turkey will, by its very nature, because it shocks our systems so much, that our symptoms are going to be more intense. So how do we cope with those? Because benzo withdrawal symptoms, even when you're doing a slow taper, can be very challenging. So those of us that have been cold turkey, and that would be me, I tapered, went back up, and then was cold turkeyed. All of this, of course, by doctors who were uneducated. It's really important that we do all of those things that can help everybody. The Four Cornerstones, which we can talk about in a second, but distraction's going to be key, and acceptance is going to be key. So it's good to be able to put your mind somewhere else and take them off of your symptoms. Learning something new is a great way to distract, because as we're learning, the brain's got to put together new neuronal connections, and it takes the spotlight off of that constant focus on that we're suffering. And even if you're bedridden after a cold turkey, I know that I was, you can still learn something new. You can learn to draw, learn to paint, learn to knit, crochet, anything. And YouTube is your best friend for doing that. And even if your brain, you're not able to think very clearly because our cognition isn't very good after a cold turkey, and certainly our memory gets pretty dicey too. That's okay. Just do the best you can. It is a good idea if you're going to learn something, try to do something that you use your fine motor control skills, because using your hands, there's something about that fine motor control that really does help reduce anxiety, which we usually have boatloads of after a cold turkey because our nervous system is so hyperexcited. So distraction is going to be key, and acceptance is going to be key. Meaning you don't have to like your situation. You don't have to, that's not what acceptance means. But it does mean to just go with the flow. Don't fight it. Just, it is what it is. And learn to just roll with the punches. So those two things are really helpful. Now let's kind of do a little bit deeper dive, and let's talk about those 4 cornerstones. Eat right, move enough, stress less, and love well. They're important for every human being on the face of the planet who wants optimal health and happiness. They're important to people going through benzo withdrawal. They are extraordinarily important for those of us that have gone the cold turkey route. Eat right, which would be a whole food plant-based diet. I cannot stress this enough. And the reason that we do a whole food plant-based diet is because our gut microbiome feeds on plant fiber. That's what fuels it, and that's what keeps it healthy and happy. When we don't get enough plant fiber, or we're introducing animal protein with eggs, dairy, or flesh from fish, fowl, or mammal, the gut microbiome becomes unbalanced, and it's a state called dysbiosis. When we are suffering from a cold turkey withdrawal, we really want our gut to be as happy and healthy as possible. We want to feed it all of those things that it nourishes it, because when those microbes eat the plant fiber, they release something called short-chain fatty acids. You want that. You want as much of that as possible, because that reduces inflammation and quiets things down. And when we're feeding our gut properly, our immune system works optimally. All of our systems work better. Our gut is responsible for our ultimate health. That's what our health kind of resides on. Of course, there are other factors, but that's the main bulk of it. So we really do have to eat right after well, we need to eat right in all phases of withdrawal, but especially after a cold turkey, because we want to keep our guts functioning properly, so they in turn can help our brain, because the gut and the brain, they're besties. They are best friends. They talk to each other in various ways. They talk through the vagus nerve, they talk through the immune system, they talk all the time. So it's important that we take care of our gut, which is going to take care of our brain. The second cornerstone is to move enough. You don't want to move too much, because you're going to activate more stress hormones, but you need enough, because as you move, you metabolize stress hormones. So it's important that you just find your Goldilocks lane, that spot that feels good for you. The third cornerstone is to stress less. And it's important to understand your nervous system finds itself in one of two states. Of course, there's blends and overlaps, but the dichotomy is the connect state, which is a parasympathetic ventral vagal response. And the connect state is the state we want to be in. That's where we're happy, we're calm, we're at peace, we've got connection to the prefrontal cortex, we think rationally and logically. It's an outward focus. We can connect lovingly and kindly and healthfully with people and the world around us. The opposite of that is protect. That is a sympathetic fight or flight, or a parasympathetic dorsal vagal response, freeze. When we're in that state, it's more of an internal focus, because we feel like it's about us. We have to protect ourselves somehow. And usually the way that we feel like we have to protect ourselves is, well, I shouldn't say the way, but we feel like we need to protect ourselves. And most of the time that threat is an emotional threat, not a true physical threat. But we respond to it. So what we have to realize in benzo withdrawal, especially after a cold turkey, is that our nervous system is in a state of protect most of the time, fight, flight, or freeze, because those GABA receptors have been damaged. Now, GABA is the brake, glutamate is the gas pedal. So right now, your body's got the gas pedal going, vroom, 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 but no braking system. It's broken. You have a chemical brain injury. So without the checks and balances, we've got this hyperexcited nervous system, and it's very difficult for it to get itself over into a parasympathetic response, that ventral vagal response. So we're going to be walking around hyperexcited, which means we're afraid of things. We have intrusive thoughts, we have racing thoughts, looping thoughts, pain, dizziness, insomnia. Your body's just, it's just all revved up. So it's really important to understand this about those two states. State drives story. State drives story. The state of your nervous system is going to flavor your thoughts and your feelings. And when you're in that protect state, they're by and large, it's negative, doom and gloom, catastrophe. When you're in the parasympathetic ventral vagal response, the connect, you can look around and see the world. You're curious. Oh, this is wonderful. Look, oh, I bet I could do this. This is great. You have childlike and wonder and gratitude and curiosity and all those yummy things. But over in the protect state, not so much. It's the negative things. So I want you to remember, one of the ways that we practice stressing less is to just allow that narrative to play itself out. That negative stuff, you're never going to get well. This is terrible. This is really dangerous. Your life is over. Nobody loves you. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever that story is, know that it is just being generated by hyperexcited nervous system. It's just a body function. That's all it is. It is not the bearer of truth. It's just evidence of a hyperexcited nervous system that is pegged over into the protect state. It's a body function. And I always say this to all my beautiful people in my Mornings with Jenn support group. Thoughts are just body functions. That's all. So what are the other body functions? Sneeze, blinks, hiccups, burps, farts. Your thoughts are no more significant than your farts. They're just body functions. So just observe them as such. And, just if you got a looping thought, a scary thought, whatever, just, that's just stinking thinking. That's all it is. So do your best to really grab a hold of this notion of state drive story, because it will help reduce your stress level when you realize all these thoughts, all this negative storytelling, it's just a story and it's fiction. They're just thoughts. The other way to reduce your stress less would be to create a stress-free environment. I have to live in the woods because this is where I'm happiest, and I need plants and the birds and the squirrels. So I create that environment for myself. What do you need to be more carefree or, to reduce stress? What kind of environment do you need and want? Don't watch the news. Don't watch movies that get you all activated. Don't read scary books or anything. Avoid people that, that are confrontational or that are energy vampires. Set an environment. The external environment, make it as peaceful as possible. And even though your internal environment isn't going to be that peaceful because state's driving story, you're in that protect state, you can still help reduce your reaction or your reaction to that by just observing it and accepting, and then getting your hands busy and doing some distraction. The fourth cornerstone is love well. That's more than, you meet a stranger across the room or how you feel about your family. It's more than feelings. Love it's a verb. There are things that we do. It's a way of being in the world. So it's gratitude, kindness, compassion, forgiveness. Forgiveness is the ultimate form of compassion. It's service to others. It's all of those good things that all the spiritual masters that have, been around in the world, I can think of Jesus and Buddha for two off the top of my head, have taught us. So when we practice those things, It's more than just, well, isn't that just nice to do? It's so much more than that, because when we practice those things, we actually grow a region right here in our prefrontal cortex called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. And it holds hands with our threat detection circuitry. So the more that we have this love way of being in the world, compassion, kindness, acceptance, patience, service to others, gratitude, curiosity, all of those great things, it builds our health, because it's building a place in our brain that says, oh, we don't need to get ourselves in an uproar over things. So it keeps us more prone to being in that connect state, that ventral vagal parasympathetic response, and getting our panties all in a bunch and moving over to the protect state, fight, flight, or freeze. Our default is the connect state. Connecting with others is a biological imperative. That's our default. But again, in benzo withdrawal, especially after a cold turkey, it's going to be more challenging to get there, but we can do things to try to help calm our nervous system. And those Four Cornerstones are excellent tools. They're an excellent way to live your life, to help your gut microbiome, to help your nervous system, to help your brain, to help your immune system, to help all your organs and systems in your body. Those Four Cornerstones, they're everything. So I encourage you to really learn about them and to put them into practice, especially if you've come off of your benzodiazepine abruptly, within a few days, or just a true cold turkey. The other thing to think about, adjunct medications. And there's a lot of different ways to think about them. And everybody has to come to their own decision if they're going to take something or not. And I'm uncomfortable saying too much, because everybody's got to find their own way. But I would say this: please research anything that a doctor wants to give you to try to help, with your cold turkey symptoms. Because often the drugs don't help us, and then we have to get off of those, and they might have their own withdrawals, syndrome. So just do your due diligence. That's all really I'd like to say. Don't just trust that a doctor's got an answer, and here, if you take this drug, you're just magically going to feel better, because that rarely happens. So just take care of yourself that way. We've already been damaged by one drug. I don't want to see you get damaged by another one, or two or three for that matter. So you decide what's best for you, but please do your due diligence around it. The other thing to remember about a cold turkey is it is going to get better. It really will. You will sleep again. You will have normal thoughts again. You will have normal feelings again. The fear will lessen. It'll go away. One day, eventually, I don't know when, but one day you wake up and you're yourself again. But here's the thing that I've discovered that I'd like to share with you before I say goodbye on this video. Most of us, after we've gone through a benzo withdrawal, we get ourselves back, but what we find is we're a better version of ourselves. We have a much larger capacity for happiness and joy and gratitude, and we have a deeper sense of who we are. And we often don't have our pre-existing anxiety or depression. We really do become the best version of ourselves. And if we live those Four Cornerstones, oh my goodness, we're just really stacking the cards in our favor to truly live our highest and best expression. So there's so much hope for you that your future is going to be even bigger and brighter and better than it was even before you got on a benzo. But I know that might be of little consequence, or whatever the right word is, for how much you're suffering right now, that's in the future. But just do know that that is coming for you right now. And the way to hold on right now is to just hold on, distract, breathe, hold on. It's going to get better, and reach out for support for people who can support you. and just keep going. Put one foot in front of the other, because every day that we are off this drug is a gift, because every single solitary day you are healing. Even when you get a bad wave and your symptoms are through the roof, you're still healing. Waves don't mean anything other than you're in a wave. You are still healing. So please keep going. Please keep going. And if I can help in any way, my website is benzowithdrawalhelp.com, and my support group is Mornings with Jenn, and you're welcome to come and check us out, see if it is a good fit for you, if you need some more support. But my blog's got hundreds, over 600 blog entries, so go use the search bar, plug in the, whatever it is that you want to know about, and see if I wrote a blog about it, because I lived through my own horrific withdrawal, eventually a cold turkey withdrawal, and I got well, and I am living proof that not only does benzo withdrawal come to an end, but we really do have this opportunity to step into that bigger, better self. I am truly the best version of me ever, and if it can happen to me, it can definitely happen for you, and I know that it will. So please just keep going and take good care.